Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with the fact that the situation on the front line really is changing. Late last night, heavy shelling of Belgorod was recorded, and Russian military bloggers began claiming that the armed forces of Ukraine have gathered forces, possibly for offensive actions in the Belgorod region. Preliminary reports on the situation in the border area. According to information coming to us from various sources, including reliable, loyal sources in the Ukrainian area, combat groups made up of some of the Ukrainian most combat ready units are concentrating in the eastern part of Kharkiv region. In particular, these include elements of the 82nd Brigade, the 3rd Separate Assault Brigade, Azov, the 125th Brigade, as well as other groups without identification markings, likely Special Operation Forces. The Ukrainians assemble this kind of force exclusively when planning an attack or an incursion into our border territories, primarily for PR purposes. Based on the above, we conclude that in the near future there is a possibility of an incursion either into the Belgorod region or into the southwestern border area of the Kursk region. We are monitoring the situation. This report will be updated. Information about the concentration of Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv region is also confirmed by other sources as well as by the results of additional intelligence methods. The Ukrainians are preparing for active operations. And panic has started among the residents of Belgorod, but the military has begun reassuring everyone. Attention to civilian residents of border settlements in the Belgorod region. First of all, please set aside any panic. There is no need to run anywhere right now or leave your homes in the middle of the night. Carefully and calmly read the text below. Fellow citizens, the last thing we want is to cause you unnecessary worry, and we hope you won't need these recommendations. Nevertheless, we highly value the lives of our people and feel it is our duty to share them. Place your documents in a separate bag and keep it in an easily accessible location so it can be grabbed quickly if needed. Keep your vehicle fueled so you have enough gas to reach any major settlement in the central areas of the region. Keep a small supply of fresh water in your car. We hope the Ukrainians will not take the risk and that you won't need this preparation, but it's better to be ready, have an emergency go back at the ready for the critical hour and not need it, than to need it and not have it. We promise to warn you if communication is available of any dangerous events affecting you, whatever it takes and regardless of any agenda. As you can see, the Russians seriously believe that the Ukrainian forces will begin offensive actions on Russian territory. And this is happening at the very moment when the Starlinks are not working. Russian media are also reporting that the front is experiencing a calm that has never been seen before. The front has stopped. The situation for the Russian army is catastrophic. Troop management is paralyzed. Russian media. Units of the Russians from different parts of the front report a calm at the front line like never before. The reason is the shutdown of Starlink for Russian forces after the introduction of mandatory prior registration. For several days, Elon Musk's company has effectively prohibited the use of its satellite communication by the Russian side, while the Ukrainian forces continue to use the system after authorization. Over 2 years of active Starlink deployment, almost all operational command of the Russians, communication between units, fire coordination, unmanned aerial vehicle data transmission depend on Starlink. Russian communication systems are unable to function effectively in modern high tech combat conditions. They fail in terms of security, stability, and scalability under load. The consequences for the Russian army could be catastrophic, and the front could collapse in some areas if the Ukrainian forces go on the offensive. And it's possible that such an offensive is already being prepared by the Ukrainian side. For now, we are waiting for information about the troop concentrations. These are statements from Russian intelligence, but Ukrainian soldiers are also writing that they very much hope the command will not just sit idly by and will take advantage of the moment where the Russians have no Starlink communication. I hope the high military command will not just blindly rejoice with everyone over the shutdown of Starlink terminals for the Russians, but will already be planning measures that will allow us to take advantage of this, because right now is the most painful period for the Russians. Later, they will adapt to the conditions of war, and it will be easier for them than if we faced a similar problem, since for almost 2 years since the start of the full scale invasion, the Russians haven't used Starlink as a communication system in the military sphere. Overall, we hope that the general staff does have some kind of plan, and we'll see it soon. And given that the war continues, Zelensky already ordered energy facilities to be prepared for the next winter, because Shalom will continue next year. Zelensky has instructed to prepare plans for protecting the energy system by autumn, what awaits the regions. We expect city and regional heads to provide their corresponding plans by September 1st, said Energy Minister Denis Shmyhal. Clearly, everyone understands that the war will not end this year, and there will also be strikes next winter. Now, let's move to the front and start with the Sumy direction. Here it's completely quiet. The Russians haven't carried out any new assaults for 2 days, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kharkiv direction, shelling continues periodically, but the situation along the front line is stable. The Russians are no longer conducting new assaults. In the Vovchansk area, the Russians carried out only 2 attacks during the evening and night. In all other villages, no new assaults have been recorded, and the situation has also stabilized. The Russians are now trying to advance only within the city, but the front line remains unchanged for now. In the Velykyi Broluk area, it's completely quiet. No new assaults have been recorded here for several days. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians carried out 2 attacks on the outskirts of the city, but all previous attacks were successfully repelled, and there have been no changes over the past 24 hours. In the Borova direction, it's also quiet. The Russians are not conducting any new assaults, and the situation has remained unchanged here for several days. In the Lyman direction, attacks are still ongoing. The Russians are advancing closer to the city and trying to establish a foothold there. They are also assaulting Stavky, breaking through near Drobosheva, and attacking Novopavlivka. However, after a major breakthrough, there have been no changes along the front line so far. Still, it's clear that the situation for Lyman is catastrophic. In the Sloviansk direction, the Russians are breaking through near the village of Zakitne and Dronivka and are assaulting Riznakivka. Fighting here remains fairly active, but there have been no new gains today, although previously the Russians had managed to advance significantly, and the situation continues to deteriorate. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians continue attacks in the city and are assaulting Plashiivka, but so far there have been no changes over the past 24 hours. All attacks are being successfully repelled. In the Dobropillia direction, activity has decreased. The Russians are assaulting Sofiivka and the village of Vilna. Elsewhere, after previous breakthroughs, the Russians are trying to hold new positions and maintain their defenses. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are assaulting Rodinsk and advancing beyond Pokrovsk in the areas of Kotline and Molodetsk. However, activity has decreased here as well, and the situation remains unchanged for now. Ukrainian soldiers had recently reported that the Russians had concentrated a significant amount of equipment in Pokrovsk and were preparing for further movement, but it seems the Starlink situation has slightly altered their plans. In the Novopavlivka area, the Russians continue attacks only on Filia as they have approached the village closely. However, there have been no new breakthroughs here so far. In the direction of Pokrovske in Dnipropetrovsk region, artillery shelling continues, but there are no offensive actions. In the Huliaipole direction, the Russians continue attacks near the village of Zaporizhzhia, are assaulting Zaliznichne, and fighting is ongoing on the outskirts of Huliaipole. Artillery shelling of frontline settlements also continues. As of the time this report was made, there have been no changes along the front line. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, just yesterday, the Russians carried out one attack on Stepnohirsk, and no further activity has been recorded here. All attacks have ceased, with only drone-assisted shelling being observed. In the Kherson direction, the Russians continue to attempt occasional breakthroughs near the Antonivsky Bridge, but they have achieved no success, and the front line here remains unchanged. Meanwhile, the first reports are already emerging that the Chinese have created a Starlink killer. China has developed a microwave cannon to strike satellites, South China Morning Post. The device was developed at the Northwestern Institute of Nuclear Technology in Xi'an. The system can generate pulses of up to 20 gigawatts for 1 minute, which, according to experts consulted by SCMP, is enough to disrupt or damage satellite constellations, including Starlink. The system is relatively compact, length 4 meters, weight 5 tons, allowing it to be mounted on a truck, warship, aircraft, or even a spacecraft. If deployed in space, its effect would be difficult to detect and intercept. Overall, they will now be doing everything possible to fight Starlink. Meanwhile, there is no panic for Lukashenko. He has long been shown a device that supposedly can replace Starlink, and it costs about the same as a regular router. The video is old, but it's a good time to recall it.
What Musk did for billions of dollars, you did yourself for free.
Well, not for free, but for very little.
Well, clearly, not for billions of dollars.
No way.
So we don't need Musk.
We don't.
Overall, friends, Share your thoughts on this in the comments. At the same time, it was reported that yesterday drones struck Kapustin Yar in Russia. Ukraine struck the Kapustin Yar training ground with Flamingo, from where Russia was launching Oreshnik general staff. A number of buildings on the site were damaged to varying degrees. One of the hangars was heavily damaged, and some personnel were evacuated from the area. In January, a series of strikes were carried out on the site using various long-range weapons, including Flamingo. Thus, Russia's weakening continues. Make sure to share your thoughts on this in the comments. And that's all from me, so please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.